Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the Mayor's Press Conference. It is Wednesday, January 11th. It's about temperature outside is 56 degrees. Feels like 52 degrees. Chances of rain this afternoon, 100% chance of rain later on this afternoon. The rest of the week is going to be kind of all up and down. We're kind of doing some pretty funny things weather-wise around here in the Ohio Valley. Thursday is supposed to be 61 degrees. Friday is going to start dropping out again. Be a little careful this weekend. They're calling for possible ice and rain on Saturday and Sunday. But again, you know, who would have guessed it? We're just having the craziest weather. I want to start with kind of something I think some people have been tracking. And that is most notably the apprehension of the individual who is being sought after for the robberies, the two robberies in Athens, People's Bank and Chase Bank, as well as several robberies in other states. So this individual was apprehended over in Parkersburg area, I believe, and now is being dealt with at the federal level. And more to come on that, but that's a little bit of good, interesting news. Some other things more locally that I want to talk about, and this again has come from the Athens Police Department, so it's kind of a PSA and an update for people. It's always good to be mindful about your valuables in your houses or in your cars. There have been between December 10th and January 10th, there's been at least 32 reported break-ins that have occurred. This is in motor vehicles. Most thefts involve taking of cash or change in both locked and unlocked vehicles. However, there are reports of incidents of property being taken as well. It is suspected the perpetrators have a concealable method for entering locked vehicles without causing damage, because several vehicles have been reported to have been locked, but no damage to the vehicle that occurred during the commission of the crime. So we're just asking people to be extra vigilant, and I guess more importantly is if you do have any valuables at all, money. If you're, you know, I know a lot of people will put change in the cup holders or whatever, or in your ashtray if you still have an ashtray in your vehicle. Take it out. Just don't leave it in there. Don't give anybody something that they view as being worth trying to take from you. And please, if you suspect that anything has happened or discover that your vehicle has been broken into, please call the 24-hour dispatch center, 740-592-3313. Or if you see anything suspicious in your neighborhood. Again, it may not be in your own vehicle. It may be a neighbor across the street. It may be someone down the street. Please contact them. It's easier and better to have our Athens Police Department respond to that and at least go check it out, rather than to be a passive bystander and not do anything at all. Some of the other things that are going on with the Martin Luther King weekend, this coming weekend, fastly approaching, that following week, for trash and recycling, there will be a one-day delay. There will be no pickup of trash or recycling on Monday, so everything gets pushed back a day. A couple last things. This is from Engineering and Public Works, is that today, January 11th, it's already underway, started at 8 a.m., but it'll go through 4 p.m., and that is the North High Street closure in between West State Street and West Washington. It started yesterday, actually, on the 10th, but is rolling through today and hopefully be finished up by 4 p.m. For the closure. And this is for a storm drain repair that's in that area. If you have any questions, feel free to contact Engineering and Public Works at 593 7636. And finally, in terms of the things that I have to report on, is that we will, the League of Women Voters is hosting a mayor's year in review, kind of state of the city forum. It's going to be an open forum. It'll be at the community center. This is January 24th at 6:30 p.m. Everyone is invited to come. My staff will be there, so it'll be myself, Service Safety Director, Debbie, Service Safety Director, Engineering and Public Works, our Chief Engineer, Andy Stone, will be there. The Director of Code will be there, City Planner will be there. So it'll be most of our department heads, since it's in the community center. The Director for Arts, Parks, and Recreation will be there as well. And I believe, not that I've asked them to come, but I'm hoping they will come. They will be invited, obviously. That City Council will be there as well. And we'll be talking about the planning for 2017, some of the things we could expect to see throughout 2017, as well as accomplishments from 2016. That said, I'm going to turn this over to the press. We have a reporter from the Post here. If you want to identify yourself for the citizens who might be tuned in this afternoon, and fire away with any questions that you might have.
All right. My name is Bennett Leckrone from the Post, and I have several questions from several different reporters today. The first one's regarding the Stimpson Roundabout construction.
Sure.
What is the need for this new project, and how will that project improve the traffic situation in the Stimpson area?
The need for this particular project is that there is a fair amount of economic development that's gone on down in that corridor. When I say that corridor, I'm talking about in that quadrant of the city near Stimpson or off of Stimpson. Most notably is the Athens Mold and Machine, which is a new, not new to Athens, but newly reopened manufacturing business, and for the level of production that they're going through with tire mold manufacturing, they're in need of an easier access to get onto Stimpson, and in turn to get onto 50 and 33 to both receive product but also to export product out. We've seen some significant expansion in the Jackie O's brewing operation, and as their production has gone up, as well as the need to receive materials and export it, that has been part of it as well. But also, it creates a new gateway into Ohio University with the creation of the McKinley Avenue extension, which is what you're referring to. The roundabout unto itself, like the other roundabouts in the city currently has two other roundabouts, and most notably is the Richland Avenue 682 roundabout, creates a better way of maintaining traffic flow through an otherwise highly congestible area. It used to be traffic signaled. It was an area where there was a lot of traffic accidents, as well as a fair amount of traffic backup when it was signaled. And so by having a roundabout, it streamlines flow, or at least it keeps flow moving as people come up to the roundabout. And so the intent with the roundabout on Stimpson Avenue is very similar to that, to where there is a level of traffic calming, but it also facilitates continuous flow throughout that area without putting a traffic signal in. Traffic signal would be a bad idea, especially as you've got a bridge that's running, crossing the Hocking River in a westerly direction, also east, but it's coming into the city. Having traffic backing up onto the bridge, or as people are exiting off of 33 or 50 and coming into the city, that probably isn't the wisest approach to take with something like that. So there's an economic development component to it, as well as creating, like I said, a different gateway into Ohio University.
My next question is about a law that the state recently passed, and Ohio became the first state to ban plywood on vacant houses. There's several vacant houses in the Athens area. Is this affecting Athens' approach to vacant housing, or do they use plywood at the current time?
You know, that's an interesting question, and I am vaguely familiar with this new law that's passed. I personally don't know. This would be a good question for our Director of Code, Rick Sorois, as to, are there a number of properties in the city of Athens that have plywooded over windows, or more importantly, do we have vacant or abandoned houses in Athens that have been boarded up? I don't think that there are any, and if there are, I'm not familiar with them. But again, getting back to the plywood question, I don't have an answer for you on that as to how many people might be using plywood versus some other material, correct, that was in this law?
Yeah, I'm not sure what material, but
I'm not
yeah.
either.
All right. So moving on to a next question, which is about the water treatment plant. When was the last time there was a renovation to the water treatment plant? What is the need for this new water treatment plant, and will the amount of boil orders for the city decrease once this new treatment plant is constructed?
Well, there's a couple things. First, I want to start with the boil order issue. The boil orders don't come from aren't associated with the water treatment plant unto itself. Those boil orders typically occur when there's a water line break out in the city somewhere that has caused, or a significant drop in water pressure. And then a boil order is sent out so that we can make sure that we're able to clear any potential pathogens there may be in that water supply but that's not at the source. Typically, we're not talking at the source. We're talking about out in the distribution system, somewhere further away from the water treatment plant. But no, the changes, the renovations that we're going to make to the water treatment plant aren't going to change what we see, in terms of a boil order out on the south side of the city or the far east or anywhere else, for that matter, throughout the city. The wastewater, or I'm sorry, the water treatment plant, there's two plants. And mid to late 50s is when Plant 1 was constructed, and Plant 2 was in the 60s. The actual dates for that I'm not 100% on, but these are this is Plant 1 in particular, since it was built in the 50s, needs a lot of upgrades to it. So it's not going to be a completely new water treatment plant. There's going to be a number of upgrades, some of them mechanical upgrades. A lot of it's electrical. We have three different voltages that come into the waste or to the water treatment plant, and it's correcting that to where we have one voltage coming in to the plant and then it being distributed to where it needs to go. We have one in particular voltage that is really an antiquated voltage that's not used in a lot of places anymore at all, and so it's upgrading the electric. The voltage is coming in, as well as I mentioned, there's a lot of mechanicals, a lot of valves. We have some old systems in Plant 1 that need to be upgraded, and so that's what we're doing. So it's not going to be a brand new plant. It's going to be upgrades to the existing plant, but it's largely due to age. Yeah, it's an aging system. It's a system that works, and again, I refer to a lot of people to the Consumer Confidence Report, which is the report card that we have for our water supply, and we have outstanding water in the city of Athens. But this is just one way to ensure that the plant itself is able to more efficiently get that water out to our customers.
All right. The next question is about the parking passes that were proposed last fall in City Council. Has the city made any progress on that parking pass system or further considered it, and are they, is it still on the table?
At this point, it's still on, well, it's not on the table. It's still being thought through. Last Monday night at City Council, Ms. Joan Kronansky came. She's the individual who came forward with this concept or the proposal, presented it to City Council. Prior to that, had presented it to me. And so she came to council on Monday night and to continue to talk about having this become a pilot program in the city and see how it works. Still a lot of work to be done on this, though. As I understand it, again, it's under City Council's review. Whether City Council brings it up as an ordinance, soon, or whether they want to work through some more details. To me, again, this is my take on that City Council meeting, is that there's still a lot of questions that are out there with regards to a permit, even as a pilot program, parking permit program. There's still more to be done on that.
Do you support the program?
I think it's intriguing. I think that I can see I certainly understand the 24-hour parking rule, so that we don't have vehicles just sitting on the streets for days and weeks, months on end, to where they're not being moved. They're just sitting there, and that becomes problematic. But I see some utility in extending that parking to where, we look at 72, that's kind of where this is sitting right now, is, a parking permit that allows a vehicle to stay in one location for 72 hours. I can see some pluses behind it. I can also see some minuses. I've lived in other cities to where they simply had street cleaning on the north side of the street on Tuesdays, so you couldn't park there, so you had to move your vehicle to the south side, and the south side you couldn't park there on Thursdays because there was street sweeping or whatever, street cleaning that was taking place, so you had to migrate it the other way. But I think that what Ms. Kronansky is doing is she's looking to see if there's a way to where people don't have to, and I find this interesting, walk their cars, to where they're just moving their car for moving's sake.
All right. My last question is about jaywalking uptown. At the beginning of the fall semester, there was a lot of talk about, citing people for jaywalking and all of that. And how many citations have there been? And is that still an issue for the city? Are they still, trying to focus on citing people for that and being active about that?
I don't know how many people have been cited for jaywalking. I really don't. One of the things we're trying to work through, personally, I'm not an advocate because it's the law. I think that, jaywalking is a problem, especially in the uptown area. It's a safety issue through my lens, to where when people are walking out between cars and in various states, whether, you're just texting and not paying attention, or you could be drinking or whatever, maybe not paying attention as you kind of walk in between two cars, I'm going to cross the street here in the middle of the street. Number one, it's against the law, but number two, it's a safety concern, especially when I look at Court Street. We don't have foot patrol officers currently that are patrolling on foot up and down Court Street to where we could more heavily enforce that particular ordinance. Most of them are in cruisers driving the city streets, and if they're driving down Court Street, to see someone, as they're, timing has to be right to be able to, as you're driving down Court Street, to see someone who's jaywalking and to enforce it that way. One of the things we can do, though, is that parking enforcement, as they're walking up and down Court Street, could potentially be citing individuals who are jaywalking and work it that way. It's something that I still have a high level of concern over. The issue is having the officers there up and down and patrolling, that's, anywhere really for that matter. You can't jaywalk anywhere in the city, but sadly it happens. So it's working through how best to enforce that particular law.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in today. And we will see you again next week. Same place, same time, hopefully.